Welcome back, everyone, to the Flyin Lion Podcast. I'm here tonight with Sam, chatting on some FC Cincinnati. An unfortunate game against Montreal that we played away. Not the result that we wanted, but hopefully we can build on kind of what we saw in that game and move forward. Because I think the team's ready to move forward too. But Sam, how you doing tonight?
Yeah, doing good, doing good. Watch the game. And it once again it just leaves bad taste in your mouth. We haven't seen this in a very, very long time, right? We'll talk about the stats later on in the show, but it's been a long time since we've had, consecutive defeats. But I'm really hoping that we get back on a tear here. I know, what is it? The next like four out of the last, next five games are going to be away or something like that, something like that. To where I think the only home game we have is in 2 weeks, but yeah, pretty crazy.
It's a wild stretch. Hopefully we can get it together here pretty soon. Tonight we're going to chat a little bit on this Montreal game. I know everyone doesn't really want to dwell on this recap, but there are some things that we need to, talk about in this game. We have a nice trivia question for you. Cards of the week, jersey swap again. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what can we do, as a team to move forward? Is it a formation change? Is it, adding people in the transfer window coming up? We'll chat a little bit too. I know the MLS is implementing some of the new rules, so we'll kind of get into that and our thoughts on that. And then we'll do an Atlanta preview for this match day number 9 coming up in Atlanta. But first off, Sam, like we had mentioned, unfortunately, we didn't get the result we wanted. FCC stands now 3-2-3 overall, still 5th in the East, Sam. Like, overall, are we, for the way it looks, we're still in the playoff hunt and we're still doing decent, I guess, if you want to call it.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where when you get used to winning, you want to win all the time, right? And so I think that's just the mindset right now. It's not a bad mindset to have as fans, because we expect a certain level of play, and once again, the fact that we're not even close to the level that we were last year or the level that we think we can be this year, and we're at 5th and we're still sitting at a playoff spot is promising. It really is. But obviously we've got some holes to fill.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the guys that were here know that level and what it takes to, get to a supporter shield level of play. Can we use those guys to kind of bolster us into this next stretch? I think that's really where you're going to see this team be tried. And, if we can now figure that out and get through this stretch with some positive points, that'd be huge. Sam, once we get down to the preview later on, I kind of want to hear your thoughts on, what would be a good stretch in these next several games. So think about that one, and everyone who's listening, think about that as well. But at least in this game, we're away at Montreal. Nasty weather day, everywhere else in the Midwest, at least in Cincinnati, beautiful day, but in Montreal, it's raining. It's 40 degrees. It's the first home game for Montreal of their season. So I don't think that was stated enough and how important that was for them to come back home, especially after losing, as we mentioned, 5-0 in the previous game against Seattle Sounders. So for them going into it, they're like, we got to, rewrite what happened this last game. We're finally playing at home.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you had talked about, them, this is their first home game. I think what they had 5 or 6 consecutive
Yeah,
away matches
6,
to
I
start
think,
the
in a
year.
row. Mm-hmm.
Pretty crazy in a weird way how the MLS schedule is. But yeah, the fans there, didn't matter what the weather was going to be, they were going to show up and stay. Given it's the very first home match, so you want to bring the energy there, and I think their players definitely felt that, right. I don't know if it was a combination of the weather and the fans making a little bit intimidating, or kind of an interesting atmosphere, but it definitely was a tough one for sure.
Yeah, I think you see the lineup come out, and real quickly, the difference in this matchup, was having Alacon, who won this backup spot, at least in this game, seeing him over Leroux. And then you get, some of the regular guys back in. You get Murphy, you now get hopefully a healthier Wobodeau. And then, Pat goes with Kubo up top again. That was the biggest thing for me to see. Okay, Kubo scores the game before, looked decent in the first 20 minutes, kind of dropped off a little bit in his production. later on in the match against Red Bulls, but did some good things that we hadn't seen Corey Bear do. And really, it was scoring. And in this game, you see it again. So sneak peek for that one. But early on in the game, Sam, the trend continues. Slow starts for FC Cincinnati in the first quarter of the season.
Yeah, it was a very very slow start. Mentioning that the lineup, it was nice to see Khan get the shout. Um, I know he's a more experienced keeper than Leroux is, and especially during an away match, it looked like obviously pre-match it looked like the right call
Right.
because he's a more experienced keeper. He's dealt with away matches, whereas Leroux he hasn't really dealt with the atmosphere like that before. But yeah, earlier in this game, I mean, we cannot get off to starts at all. Unless, I mean, obviously the week prior, Kubo, but other than that, really haven't seen much at the beginning of games this season. And it just looked lazy and sloppy for the most part, especially in the back line, which you hadn't seen this year. This was probably honestly the back line's worst game, worst match of the season, if I had to say so, just technically and tactically, how they kind of played overall. But yeah, it was definitely a very slow start.
That's a great point on defense too, because I mean your defense can kind of dictate the way that you play in a lot of sense, especially with FC Cincinnati and in this year and how we build from the back. But yeah, I mean, starting in the ninth minute, there's a chance where Montreal hits the post, and you're like, oh, okay, well, we need to show up now. We got lucky on that one. And then, 8 minutes later, you get another chance off a throw in, and they're coming right back at us, and they hit one just wide. So, I mean, honestly, we're kind of lucky that we don't concede really in the first half until, the very end of the half. But the first 20 minutes just lack that clear ability to get out of the defense, and then just some silly mistakes, not communicating with each other. I don't know what it was. Just seemed a little bit off. Maybe it was the weather. Maybe, I don't know. They trained in the rain, Sam, all week prior, so they should be used to that. But it just seemed to be, like you said, a little bit off on the defensive side. Um, Another trend that I saw was 5 yellow cards in that first half. It was a little bit chippier than I would have maybe expected. Maybe that's what I would have expected out of the Red Bulls game, but not out of the first half where you get 5 yellows.
Well, you had
What were your thoughts on that?
yeah, you had Yedlin that pushed who is it? Montreal's guy,
Right.
Kakara,
Kakara.
into the sideline boards. Like that was the first yellow of the game right there, and that kind of set a tone for sure.
Did he get subbed out because of that shove? I was trying to see. I know he gets subbed out in the
I would
26th minute,
assume
but
so. I would assume so. Yeah.
so I mean, I'm not going to say thank DeAndre Yedlin for Joseph Martinez coming into the game, but if that's the case, like, dude, Joseph comes in and you're like scared because look at his track record against, FC Cincinnati. And I have some stats on that here coming up. But yeah, I mean, that whole half just wasn't good enough. We did have a good free kick, I think, from outside the box that Lucho puts on goal. The keeper has to make a save. But besides
It's
that, do you
not. Yeah.
do you really have any other moments that you can think of that we were really dangerous?
I mean, I can't. No, I can't. I mean, maybe Kubo had a chance
Hmm.
in the first half. I can't remember. Was it first half or
Just after
second half
half.
when he had that?
Yeah,
What's
just
that?
after half.
Yeah, just after half. He had another chance, but we'll touch on that a little bit later. His chances, but yeah, as far as the first half goes, it was, once again very slow. Nothing really much to the first half.
Yeah, once you get to the 45th minute, I mean, like I said, in some ways you feel lucky not to have conceded, but I can't
Oh,
say I
100%.
didn't see
Yeah.
it coming that, we get countered, the ball gets played down, their left-hand side, Yedlin's going one-on-one with the guy. And they play this ball that's a little bit behind the back line. The back line drops. They play this ball back to the guy at the top of the box. And I don't know, Sam, in that moment, Obi looks to have slowed down his run in recovery and doesn't step out. And at first, I'm like, is it Obi? But then I see both center backs actually go with the striker. And the striker does a really good job at drawing both center backs, leaving that guy wide open. But you got to have that line drop in and take those guys who are occupying that space at the top of the box. I saw it last year in a few games. I think in the playoff game we saw it too, where the midfield sometimes gets caught up a little bit too much in transition and leaves us vulnerable for the counter. Where you have three center backs, but can they talk better? Hey, I'm going to take this runner. You step out on the guy that's higher up on that area, And Joseph Martinez turns and hits it brilliantly into the corner.
Yeah, he just found the space, right? And it's very tough to defend that, especially when, he's got four guys around him, but they're not even within, 10 feet. But yeah, I would say it all starts for me. I mean, you had touched on Obi in the midfield. Yeah, he didn't step later towards I guess, the end of that play where he actually puts it in the back of the net. But for me, it actually starts in the midfield during the attack when Buka doesn't like he's like within less than 5 feet of the ball, and there's no hustle, there's no, get back to at least, force a turnover or even, foul the guy to stop the transition. Um, I think more effort there from Buka could have possibly, stopped the play in the middle. But yeah, I think Joseph Martinez, you give him that much space, he's going to finish. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous what he's done against us.
Experts, strikers find that space and they score on their half chances. You got to be better to end the half. I mean, that's the worst way to end that half. Like I said, it's not like it wasn't coming in some aspects, but still close it out and then start the second half in a different note. But now you're going 0-1 down. Yeah, so I mean you mentioned his track record. So Joseph Martinez, Sam, in 10 games against FC Cincinnati has 8 goals. So I think that's got to be higher up there for the amount of goals against one team or in that, limited amount of games. This year he has 2 goals and 3 assists for Montreal already. Should FC Cincinnati have looked at Joseph Martinez as a striker? He was a free agent, Sam, and had historically killed us. I think personally, I would have at least given him a look, but his injury track record, tearing his ACL. I look at him with Miami last year. I think he had 7 goals and an assist in MLS play. Like, would we have valued him a little bit higher than Corey Baird? I don't know what your opinion is on that.
Yeah, I think to your point, I think we should have given him a look, especially a guy with his pedigree. Um, he could have been a valuable veteran piece to our, what we were building. And for not bringing back a guy like Baji, Vasquez is gone. Like, we needed a veteran up top because we're missing guys like that. But yeah, he's an incredible player, and Montreal is lucky to have him. And my goodness, like, seriously, like, what a player Joseph Martinez is.
Yeah, I mean, for how well he did, Sam, let's give our flowers to Yuya Kubo, our stopgap, striker in these past several games. Did you have one point before we get to that?
Yeah, so the other, just the stat for that first half. This is the first time this season that FC Cincinnati trailed at halftime.
Hmm.
We were either going into half tied or, we're up. So this is the first time we ever trailed.
That's interesting. I mean, how does that change your mentality? We saw it so many times last year where they could come back in those moments, being down. I don't know how many times last year that we were able to, but yeah, I mean, sneak peek as we get into the second half. I mean, they come out strong in some ways. Yuya has that chance right in front of goal where he hits it at the keeper. Shot on goal off of Acosta's run down the side. We've seen that so many times now this year where I think Lucho's occupied more of an outside space than we've seen in prior years. Maybe 2021, I think it was. He also kind of drifted a little bit further out.
Mhm.
But it builds up to the 58th minute. You get a ball again, with Lucho finding little pockets of space, but having that connection with Kubo to know, all right, I'm going to run behind here and slip behind the defense, which we haven't seen enough of this year. We saw it a year ago. We saw it 2 years ago with Brenner and Vasquez, just so many slip through balls for them to run on. And Kubo does well with it and takes it. He's got, 2 games in a row now with a goal at striker. So that connection with Lucho, can we keep building on that? And I think at this point, has he earned his spot up top, at least temporarily?
Yeah, I just thought that was a good good play through the middle, starting with Buka and then Buka hitting Acosta and Acosta finding Kubo. I thought it was very well played. For a half second though, I was almost very like I was almost relieved that
Oh,
he
did you
didn't
think it was
pass it to
offside?
Boop because it looked like Boop was off. Kubo, like I knew Kubo wasn't off, but it looked like Boop was. But
Yeah.
then you rewatch it and you see like I believe their right back is keeping everybody onside, because he was like maybe a couple feet past. But yeah, it was a phenomenal ball by Lucho, great run by Kubo, great finish too around the keeper.
hmm
Can't say that I've seen that a lot from our other strikers. Just a calm, cool, collected finish. So it's definitely nice to see.
Well, and the movement off the ball, I think we've had times where Lucho has taken on people, but he hasn't had that clear look maybe to play them through, or there was a little bit of a misunderstanding if one guy was checking or going through. You get that connection maybe from, 3 years of playing together now. And you say, okay, I know where Lucha's going to occupy these spaces and I'm going to create behind the back line. Like that's what I would love to see Bupenza be able to establish with him or Baird or whoever's up top, Santos, find those pockets of space, especially if the defense is in a moment where they're held up higher. We're not trying to break down a lower block. Something to look out for. But as soon as we feel pretty good and we're back in the game, dude, like 4 minutes later, they're already coming right back at us. So I went back and I looked at this play because I caught the tail end of it, and you see Lassiter scores this goal on Khan's near post. But if you go back to look at this play, an underrated moment of this is it comes off of a goal kick, Sam. And while we're on this goal kick, Montreal spreads this wide. They break us through the midfield because Robinson tries to step high on the ball because Montreal was playing down a man. They had a guy that was actually out on the sideline during this play. So Robinson steps into the space. They break through our back line and play this ball through. Miazga, I think, is a little bit slow, and Joseph turns him. Murphy's slow to get over to it. So it was just like a stagnant moment that off of a goal kick. I wonder if this is some sort of training exercise that they had to break down a higher press. Maybe did they see in prior games, did we play up high? You see us press off of goal kicks all the time, and they were able to break it. It's almost like a fast break in basketball, Sam, same idea. But underrated moment is that was with a man down, too. I mean, that is not a good look.
Yeah, not a good look at all. I mean, you're going 4-on-3 break. And I think it was just in the end, it was just a poor block attempt by Murphy. Now, you know, you were going to mention this here in a little bit, but maybe he was thinking that Khan would have the inside of the post a little bit better,
True.
so maybe he wasn't stepping as far and as hard. Because I know you had wanted to mention like Alec Khan, where at you? Like where are you at? Like this is your front post. Like that is the one thing as a goalkeeper that it's got to irk you the most is being beaten on your near post. And it's something that I don't know, like does Celentano say that, right?
Yeah, two
But
games in a
it
row, we've
just
said that about the keepers, right?
yeah, I think Miazga kind of gives up on the play a little bit after being. I mean, I don't really think he got beat by Joseph Martinez. It didn't. It was just kind of just like you said, just like a weird, slow, methodical play. Joseph plays it to the left side of Miazga, and honestly, like it was just a really, really good shot. He put a lot of power on it. Lasseter did, but yeah, I think Khan's got to get a hand on that for sure. He kind of just I don't know waffles out a little bit.
I think it hit the whole team out of nowhere. Like literally,
Yeah,
it's like,
for sure.
well, they're a man down. They're gonna just play it, easy through the back line, and all of a sudden, it's like, shoot, they're through their press on us, and like maybe is Khan out of position in that play or not? Like it looked like he was in a decent position, but
A little
like you
further out
said,
than usual, maybe.
yeah, the guy just gets a lot of pace on his shot and places it perfectly. Like in that moment, if Murphy can cut off his angle a little bit more and force him wide, then the only play is to try to go across him. He's not going to
Yeah.
beat him on that front post if you have that covered. So it's unfortunate, it happens so quick, but that's the game winner. It ends up being 2-1 at that point. We do get a good look later on, so we see
Two
our
more
boy.
chances. Yeah.
Two more. You're right, absolutely. But you see Dado come in, and what was it, Sam? Within like 4 minutes of him being in, like He
Not even
finds a
that.
pocket of space and puts a half volley on target. At
Yeah.
least he puts it on target and has another good look at goal. Like, I don't know how many times we have to say it that this guy just needs to be in there creating more, getting more opportunities. You see him, I think, towards the end of the game get more minutes actually with Corey Baird and not as much with Bupenza because Bupenza got taken off. But just to establish some sort of rhythm with some of the guys around him. But even in limited minutes, like creating chances, I mean, I got to give him credit for that.
Yeah, that was his first touch of the game was that. So that was very, very impressive that, already coming on, he's impacting the game in a positive way. Um, Almost wish it, just snuck into I know it took a deflection, but almost snuck into the right hand corner there. But the other chance that I was talking about was the Kubo offside chance.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The link up with Orlano. Oh my gosh, like if he would have sent that just a second or two sooner,
Was it
great
Corey
run by
Baird?
Kubo. Was it Baird or
I think it might
Orlano?
have been Baird, Sam.
Baird off the side, whoever it was, Kubo made a great run, and you didn't see him quite fast enough, and
Yeah.
Kubo was offside, and that could have been a game tying goal. But those are the chances that you look back and man, I wish we would have had those.
Right. Especially maybe later on in the season when you look at this match and saying, well, again, Montreal just lost 5-0 and they're kind of on the ropes in some ways. They've been playing all their games on the road. Let's attempt to get some points, at least salvage a draw. But I hate the last several games. It almost feels like we're trying to steal a point, not like dominating a
Oh yeah.
game or being in control of our own destiny in some ways. It's kind of like we're just trying to salvage something out of it. And I don't like being in that position consistently. I'm sure they don't either, and that's obvious. But um, just I think a quicker start. You made the point about Yuya's goal in the previous game, in the New York game. It's like I almost even forgot about that because of how the next 30 minutes went after. If you're going to come out strong, continue it. We just need to see better play in that first half. Stats from the game, overall we have 50% of possession. Didn't feel like that at times, but we only had 8 shots, 3 in the first half. So again, it kind of reiterates that slow start. Sam, what impression did you get out of this game overall, though?
Yeah, my impression is honestly like, is it time that we bench Bupenza and we start Baird with Kubo, or we do a Dado Lucho with Kubo up top? Like, I want to see new things. I want to see just I don't care right at this point, to be honest with you, because any combination that he's thrown out there right now does not work. Um, so do we need to bench Bupenza? Do we need to bring in Baird? Do we need to bring in Santos? Like, like find a rotation. Those are the impressions that have really come across me. Is let's just try something new. I know we're going to talk a little bit later in the podcast about trying new things as far as formations, but as far as the lineup goes, who needs to come off and who needs to go back on. Maybe try a different combination.
Yeah, I think you see him over the past several games try to change it up formation wise. Do we go to something like you said to a different striker pairing? You've had Kubo in there and he's done well and had success the last 2 games, but you lack maybe dominance in the midfield. Really, this is the other thing that we really didn't touch on is just it looked a little bit flat, a little bit slow through there, and 2 games in a row now where I felt like they've kind of dictated the game through that area. So yeah, I mean, from front to back, got to be better. Got to use our, players that have normally stepped up in big moments and been leaders to say, how do we get back on track? How do we get this back together? As everyone had probably seen, it's not a time to like freak out. Again, the last time we lost 2 games in a row was May of 2022. So it's been a minute. We've done well. Like this has been kind of rare in some ways that we've actually, had 2 losses now, especially under, Pat Noonan. The last time, Sam, that we lost 3 games in a row was October of 2021. So also been a minute for that. Like you said, we've gotten used to winning. And when you get that little taste of just consistently pumping out results, like when some games don't go your way, everyone wants to just freak out about it. But do we completely reinvent the wheel or do we go with, hey, we're still in fifth? We've had some things that have worked well. Do we try to figure out the other moments? I'm kind of back and forth on those points, but good overall impression. I think that's good. And still being fifth, it's not bad. So
Yep.
before we go to break here, Sam, I have a trivia question for you if you're ready for this.
Yep, let's go.
So, when was the last time that Yuya Kubo scored in 2 consecutive games?
That's an interesting one. I'm gonna go with. I don't think this was probably the first time he's ever done it with FC. I believe I saw that somewhere. But I'm gonna go with 2019 when he was with Ghent.
All right, so Sam's locked in 2019, and that he hadn't done it with FCC. So wait until the end of the episode, and we'll give you this answer. Hey, FC Cincinnati fans, we are pumped to share our new sponsor, Peak Cocktails.
I'm sipping on the passion fruit margarita, which is so spicy and it makes me feel like I'm on the beach.
Ooh, that sounds great. I'm drinking the Blood Orange Spritz, which has a great subtle ginger flavor coming from its scientifically formulated recipe to promote exercise recovery, enhance relaxation, and support a better night's sleep.
Ryan, that's exactly why I love them. Their cocktails are designed to fit seamlessly into your health conscious lifestyle, giving you the enjoyment of a delicious adult drink without the downsides of alcohol.
Guys, next time you are looking for that post-workout drink or an afternoon pick-me-up, grab a Peak Cocktail. Visit them at www.peakcocktails.com and use the code Flyin Lion at checkout to get 20% off your first order. Zach, enjoy your drink. Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for listening to our sponsor, Peak Cocktails, who Sam and I are sipping on tonight. Sam, we will go into some cards of the week here with some things that we want to see maybe change, or what was your yellow or red. I'm kind of interested to see where you went with this one.
Yeah, so card of the week is going to be needing Celentano back in a big way. If you look at the first 6 games with Celentano, we only gave up 3 goals. And in the 2 games without him, we have given up 4 goals. So hopefully, the reports are that he's looking to be active for the game against Atlanta. So that's a plus. However, it's just like Charlotte, where he got injured. The game is on turf, right? So I'm wondering how FC Cincinnati is going to play that, considering we don't like turf as a team, as a club, as a podcast. We're anti-turf. So hopefully we'll get Celentano back and healthy against Atlanta.
Great point. I mean, especially like coming back to the turf situation, like, do we go to him in that? I don't know, but maybe they look at your stat and what you're saying and say, shoot, man, Roman's been actually a good point. Can you say that's all on the defense? I think Roman made some really good saves to start the year and has shown his value. I mean, him not being there and to show, hey, look at how many goals we've let in. Maybe there's been some moments where the keepers could have done better. It's easy to look back on that now and say that, but I agree. I think Roman has been a consistent leader, in the back, especially through our run last year. 2022, he grabs that position as his own. And I think it was right around the time that he started to get more consistent starts was the last time we lost 2 games in a row. So through that run, when's the last time, that he's had 2 losses in a row? It's been impressive. So yeah, Celentano might be the bottom line. Would love to see him back. You call that a yellow that we need him to get him back soon, or a red?
Yeah,
Is
we'll
it
go
time to
yellow.
panic?
Yeah, we'll go yellow. Considering he's still coming back from injury, turf situation, as well as like Khan and Laura they're not terrible options. Especially when you have the back line that we do. They're gonna recover. They're gonna have a better game than what they had, against Montreal. So I'm soft yellow.
Okay, all right, I like it. I'm gonna also go with a. Actually, I think I'm gonna go red, Sam. Our FC Cincinnati schedule toughens up kind of at the worst time. Like we mentioned, we haven't had 2 losses in a row in a while. Our next several games are going to be pretty difficult. So on the road against Atlanta, then we go back home. We play Colorado, who's fifth in the West. Then we go to Orlando, to Columbus, and then host Atlanta at home. So I mean, it's going to be a tough run, and we're kind of in a moment where we're really going to see how this team fares. maybe it's a blessing to say, hey, we got to pick our game up. Maybe we play better to better competition. I would love to see that. But let's go down to Atlanta, where last year, I mean, we snuck out a win. Our first year in MLS, we got a draw. We've done decent, down there. Besides that, I think we had a couple of other ties and I think a loss or two. But at least last year we got that win there. Can we build on that? Can we go back down and say we've done this before? Let's do it again. But yeah, the schedule's getting a little bit tough here at the worst time.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, we're not really getting a break or a cushion. You would have thought that this would have been some sort of a break against Montreal, like you had said. They had just come off a 5-0 thrashing. But yeah, we step into the fire that is the Atlanta United Stadium. Got great fans, great atmosphere. And once again, it's away on turf, so it's going to be a really tough game. Tough stretch of games coming up for sure.
I'm interested to see, especially, I think Columbus is the only team left in CONCACAF Champions Cup, Sam. Their
Yeah.
next game, I wonder if that falls around when we play them. That would be Saturday, May 11th. Do they have a midweek game, for the semifinal? I'll have to go and kind of check that out and see. That would be interesting timing, to have that. They're in the semifinal against Monterrey, and then they would potentially play us. I mean, that would be very interesting to say the least, in that back-to-back. But as we move on to jersey swaps, kind of on the flip side, we did have some solid players. Sam, who was your jersey swap of the week?
Yeah, I got to go back-to-back weeks. Got to give Kubo his shout for the jersey swap of the week here. He's playing with a lot of energy, something we have not seen in any of our other strikers or forwards, which is nice. And, to your point earlier, he's making the proper runs at the right times, which once again, we have not seen because they're stagnant. They're waiting for the ball to come to them, whereas Kubo's finding those open spaces, open slots to make runs, and to have the ball played to him rather than, the ball coming to him. Both of his shots were on target, and he actually made the keeper make an attempt to make a save, right? Which was really nice to see as well, rather than shots right at the keeper, which I feel like we're seeing a lot too. Not sure, obviously, if he's the long-term solution up top, but once again, nice to have a guy who we can slot in at any position, and know he's going to perform, day in, day out.
Yeah, I mean, and continuing to actually be productive is the biggest thing too. Not just coming in and just doing what he's told, but like excelling almost in some ways. I mean, he's doing better in some aspects than some of the other forwards that we had, so that's what we need if we're going to elevate our game. So shout out to Yuya for that. I think he's been the most lively striker that we've had. So how do we build on that going forward? How do we maybe see something out of the Lucho connection with him in this past game? Or even, I mean, the game before, like he gets his header and it's off of a Costa assist. Like that's 2 games in a row, I mean, that's huge. So, but going into this, talking about Kubo and for jersey swaps, my jersey swap of the week was Acosta, just again, because they've been able to establish a little bit of a connection there. And can we build on that? Acosta now has 2 goals and 4 assists on the year. He leads the MLS in chance creation. I think he's done a decent job more recently. I think this game especially was a little bit more lively. Had, like I said, a free kick that was on goal that was dangerous. I'm going to say this as a positive, Sam, but had given up some of his roles for corner kicks to Oriano. So applause, to him for understanding that, hey, we need to be better in those moments. Maybe that's coming from him, maybe that's from Pat, but that shows to me some maturity and leadership.
Yeah, you did call for that last week. You had said love the guy, but can we see somebody else taking free kicks? And they listen to the podcast, Ryan. It's really it's nice to see translated onto the field. But yeah, I think Lucho, once again, it's going to be reiterated throughout the entire time of FC Cincinnati history, lore, whatever you want to call it. That we wouldn't be where we are without this guy. Game in, game out. He provides the spark. He provides the assist, the goal, whatever we need. Like he's got it. So, I mean, if you look at his impact, right, without him, it'd be a very bleak looking FC Cincinnati for sure.
I mean, we would look like early MLS, FC Cincinnati that dropped 5 behind the ball, maybe had a counter-attacking
We
one
we don't
chance per
we don't even
game.
have we don't even have relegation in the MLS, and I feel like we probably would be up for relegation back to the USL Championship.
I mean, as I kind of shouted out, I mean, he's had to create more, and maybe that's why his chance numbers are up, but he led the lead last year too. I mean, he was doing it, the last several years with us. You see more of it where he's had to create in these moments. I think for me too, and his maturity as a captain, Sam, is, in the moment you see a lot of emotion because of how much he cares. But after the game and still saying like, we lost, but we move forward. Or, having posts from him during practice of all of them getting together and, him saying we build as a team and we're getting better. That's what you want to see. You don't want to hear rumors. I hate to go to Minnesota United, but Reynoso, look at their number 10. He could have easily just dropped off the face of the earth and said, I'm not coming back. When times are getting hard, I'm just gonna fight through it. And credit to him, he's done that. For those who aren't familiar, Emmanuel Reynoso for Minnesota United has gone MIA. He hasn't come back to Minnesota since he had gone down to, I think it was Argentina. So I mean, we could be in a totally different scenario if that was the case.
Yeah, no kidding. But we're looking to get him some help. And moving on, we've got the transfer window closing here on April 23rd. Right down, I mean, what, a week away right now as we're filming this, I think.
Right.
And the options are not like they're not popping up. To Zach's point last week, we haven't had any rumors, haven't had anything to like clamp onto. The only rumor we've had is Kelsey, but I mean, at this point, he's no longer an option. And it kind of seems like I think the report came out and it was FC Cincinnati had given 3 different offers and the club denied it all. So it doesn't look like a move for him to the MLS is going to happen, at least this spring, maybe in the summer. But yeah, he's no longer an option. But Ryan, do you have anybody in mind, or what's your thought process on that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, striker is the glaring position. A U22 type big build striker. I don't know. I think honestly, the club had put a lot of thought into Kelsey as being that option if they could, because he wasn't getting time at Shakhtar Donetsk. And now that we're getting close to the end of the season for a lot of these teams, you may not see as much of that movement, at least from Europe in that aspect. Maybe from South America. Is there a guy that's down in Argentina, or, is it Brazil or somewhere else, Chile, Paraguay? Do we find somewhere down there a stud that can come in? But in the European market, I think we have to wait until the summer at this point. So you might not see reinforcements for a little bit. I don't want them to rush into that decision either. And I think they've been smart about that before, finding the right fit. We pursued Kelsey and apparently had really good offers for him, 3 different rebuttals for it. I mean, we clearly showed some interest. But we're running out of time. And like you mentioned, next Wednesday, we got to find somebody that fits. But if it's not a great fit, then I don't want to rush it, Sam. And if we have to wait until June or July, like, look at the model of Seattle Sounders. I always go back to, you can win during the season, but if you find that winning mentality at the end of the season, or that right fit, that right chemistry, like look how we did in 2022, I believe, and made that run. Do we find that person where we have a little bit more sustained training or games where we need this guy to play, and we build that for the end of the year? That would be one thought.
No, yeah, I'm 100% with you on that. I'd rather them be careful and considerate when it comes to, who we're going to put up top, or, another piece being added. But I do have 2 people in mind. Just wanted to give options, right? Just in case they need some help. So 2 options I researched here. Both of them are free agents, so you don't have to worry about any, beat transfer windows, European, right, South American, etc. But the first one is Nigel Robertha. He's a 26-year-old free agent. Most recently played for DC United. He didn't have quite the quality that you would have hoped. He only had 6 goals and 4 assists and 45 appearances, but He's another option that could be up there as a center forward to bring. He's got MLS experience. And then the other one is kind of on the younger side, closer to your U22s, but he's a 23-year-old Brazilian free agent, Lincoln. He recently played in the J League, and his contract just ended at the beginning of March. But he played for Flamengo and then Cruzeiro as well. So he's also got experience down there. Showed some promise at the club and international level. He actually did really well when he was, I think, U20s and U17s for the Brazilian national team.
Lincoln, I think, had been rumored to FCC at one point.
I know.
I think it was maybe 2 years ago.
A
I don't know.
while,
It's
yeah.
interesting.
Probably when he was on that high.
Yeah. Sam, I wanted to bring up a point real quick about Chris Albright. Look at the guys that, there's been a lot of talk recently. We've had 5 guys that we lost, maybe 6 arguably, from last year's team that were huge contributors, and we're trying to flip this now. And this year you have completely different roster. You've gotten some decent results, but now you're starting to slip a little bit. The guys that performed, like Kubo, again, was not really an Albright guy. What was there's some thought now that, are Albright's guys hitting in some ways, Wobodo obviously has done really, really well. Miazga has done really, really well, but at least from a forward position, can we find that person that can contribute? Because we've seen Bupenza be brought in, we've seen Baird be brought in. Baji, I would say, would be an Albright guy technically and had done well, and Vasquez necessarily wasn't. It's interesting. It's an interesting thought, but going along kind of pondering, these changes, again, a whole bunch of talk has been made on, do we change formation? And prior to the season and based on the roster we had, I was so for a 4-4-2 diamond, Sam, meaning 4 center backs, center mids where they kind of are dueling, and 1 defensive guy and an attacking mid, and then 2 strikers. Now you could play that diamond where the guys and center mid are out wide or closer in. I'm curious to see your thoughts on this before I give my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's always a good shout, especially with the depth that we have in the midfield. I mean, you can't go wrong with, Pinto, Dado, Buka, and Wobodo, Acosta, like guys like that. Even Kubo can slot in the middle there. We've got a lot of depth. So a formation like that definitely helps out, especially in the center back position too. When you're talking about 4 in the back, you don't necessarily have to play, 3 guys in the back like we're playing now at the center back position. You add a lot more depth, especially towards the end of the season. And as we have Leagues Cup that picks up more competition, stuff like that. But yeah, to my point earlier, you just got to switch it up, try something new up front. I think the formation right now really isn't helping our midfield that much. I think they're kind of lost, if you will, and having the midfield being lost and trying to catch up, it pushes our center backs forward a little bit too much. And that's where you've seen, like what happened against Montreal. We got caught, like you had said, Miles was up, and then, Miazga had to come up. Then Murphy has to, late on the back side because he's coming from the left side, right? So just trying out new stuff. My favorite formation is always 4-3-3 attacking. But that's just me. I don't know if it fits too much right now. It could, but yeah, I think the 4-4-2 diamond is probably a better shout.
If you want to go 4-4-3, I mean, Oriano on the one wing, Barrett on the other, because he's played as a winger before, and Bupenza in the center. What were you gonna say?
You said 4-4-3. It was 4-3-3.
4-3-3. Sorry, 4-3-3. Yeah, 4-3-3. That would be too many players.
We had an extra guy on the field.
Yeah, if we had one extra guy, then we'll be solid. Yeah, I don't know. I think what we're both saying, I think at some point you got to try it. Why not? My question would be, the biggest glaring spot right now is if you move Oriano up to get him more offensive and you see how he does where he's naturally good, who do you slot in at left back? Is that Kubo? Is it you move more, Oriano up, or have them interchange at some parts during the game and see how they do? Maybe in some parts, you have Kubo slide back if, Oriano's up high, or is that more of a fluid position, I guess is what I'm getting at. in the last several games, we've lost the midfield battle, and we really took for granted how good Moreno was at covering space. We did better when we had two true defensive midfielders. And so far, Buka's done well. I just haven't seen as much of the offensive prowess as we had been rumored to hear or to see. So how can we better utilize him? And is it bringing one more midfielder into that space to help them and to counteract that? Do you lose something on the defense? I don't think so, because you really have two solid defenders in Miazga and Murphy who have done well at two center back systems. Yedlin's played, as a right back. So really the only thing you're testing out or trialing is a new left back. So maybe in some point you do plug in one more guy in the midfield. You unlock Buka's potential to go forward a little bit more, integrate with the offense. Does that unlock things? I know that Oriano has improved some as a defensive player at wing back, but every time I see him on the ball, Sam, he wants to go forward. He wants to attack. He wants to create. And I think you're losing some of his ability and what he's very good at by always having the team, coming at us because we're not able to retain possession up top with our strikers. So I would love to see us be able to unlock him a little bit better, to connect with Lucho, and just to create better opportunities up front. If we're going to do it, I don't know if at Atlanta is the time to test that out. Is it at home at Colorado? I don't know. What are your thoughts on that and implementing that right now at Atlanta, or do you go with a system that had worked for the past 2 years?
I think you try it at home.
Yeah.
I think that's a safer place to try it out, especially against a team like Colorado. I want to say when you play away, you're just playing for that point, right? You play for a point and you hope for a win. And so switching it up may cause mass confusion, and you may end up, not getting anything at all, more than likely. But I would say probably wait an extra game before you try stuff out. But once again, maybe I think, you had talked about this last week. Pat even admitted he's got to be better mid-game making those adjustments.
Making adjustments.
And that was the biggest thing that he kind of mentioned was, I need to be better. Not only do the players need to be better, but I need to be better making, better substitutions, better adjustments as the game flows. So maybe that's something that we see against Atlanta. If things aren't going well, maybe they make the adjustments to, properly kind of handle the rest of the game. But I think as far as starting, you go with against Colorado.
Yeah, great point. And do you train a little bit differently then in that formation? I don't know, man. That's tough as a coach. Do you try out a new formation in practice, but say, hey, in Atlanta, we're still going to stick with the same, and then try something?
It's no different than, trying out new set pieces or different
True.
things like that.
Yeah.
Within practice.
It's tough for me to say just switch it up, 10 games into the season, when you're still fifth in the East. You did fairly well in Champions Cup. You looked good at some points against Monterey. You didn't get the results you wanted, but do we totally throw it out of the bag? If you continue to get results or slow starts or poor performances in some ways, like, how do you unlock the players you have? And you have to, as a coach, be able to adapt. That's what makes Pat, the MLS Coach of the Year. How can I, again, change to the players that I have? Maybe the guys last year were better suited for what we had. How do I make the most out of the guys I have now? And I think that's where you see that happen, maybe. So as we lead into this and looking at the next match, Sam, match day number 9 against Atlanta in Atlanta, like we had kind of talked about earlier, a tough road test. You're going to get a big crowd again. Turf game, it's Miles Robinson's first game back. What kind of reception is he going to get from the fans, who are probably not going to be very happy that he left to go to Cincinnati? It'll be a maybe inspired performance for Robinson. I would love to see the guy get a goal in this game. That would be huge for him.
Yeah, I think you had touched on it earlier in the podcast, but last year we had 1 win, 1 draw last year. And most notably, you're talking about, last season away at Atlanta when we conceded in the first 10 minutes. and then we were saved in the last 15 minutes by Lucho, a goal, and a Vasquez goal. But yeah, once again, this is a return game for Robinson. And honestly, this is what I'm predicting. I'm going to manifest it and predict it. Robinson's going to score in this game. I could see him carrying the ball up the pitch a little bit further than normal um, from the back line. And then I see him being more active on set pieces. You had mentioned, Orlando taking a little bit more of the free kicks. I think we see Robinson try and get in there and get a little bit more aggressive up front during those set pieces, whether it be corners or free kicks.
Yeah, I mean, especially on a turf type of game, like set pieces are huge. We I think scored. I don't think Lucho's goal last year was off of a free kick there, was it? I think it was just the interconnection with
Yeah.
Mourinho, if I remember.
Yes.
I just would dread a slow start in Atlanta. Like they're gonna kill you if you come out flat. They're used to playing a quick game on turf there at home. They always
Yeah.
play well. They give up a goal late to Philadelphia the other day on Sunday, I think it was. So also coming off of that game, they're gonna be pretty upset that they didn't get more out of that. And that was without Yakimakis. So their star striker has been out with a bone bruise to his knee or shin. It sounds like he's coming back to training. I don't know if he'll be able to play a full 90 minutes, but a healthy Yakimakis is scary for a defense that just gave up 2 goals to Montreal.
Well, yeah,
Like it's a different
in the
animal.
second game, yeah, in the second game last season, was at home for us against Atlanta, and he scored both goals. And it ended up being a 2-2 draw. So very dangerous player, very good and can light up I guess the scoreboard when it really gets down to it.
I just don't want us to play defensive to just try to get a draw out of this. That would be the last thing. Because then if your energy is low and you don't come out, like they're gonna punish you, like I said. And where you had maybe miscommunications in some aspects last game, like you got to get those reassured with Thiago Almada coming right down your throat. They have a formation that plays pretty attacking. I mean, I'd compare it similar to Columbus in some aspects. They play quick, and they will swing it in from the width. They're going to attack Yedlin. They're going to attack Oriano. I think really right away you're going to notice their one-on-one battles with Oriano and Yedlin will decide this game.
Yeah, agreed. Do we have a scoreline we're thinking of?
I'm going 1-1. I think we get a draw. I think we hopefully, in my opinion, come out strong, get a goal in the first half finally. It's been a minute since Red Bulls, I guess. But besides that, it hadn't really been that way. And then I think they get one late as a Yakimakis comes off the bench and scores.
All right, I'll go 1-0. I'll go 1-0, Miles Robinson goal, Roman Celentano clean sheet.
All right. I would love to see it back. Again, Roman coming back. First game on turf with a high ankle sprain is a little nerve-wracking, but hopefully, he's there. I haven't seen any report this week, Sam. Have you seen anything on X about Roman's health? I don't think there's really been much talk.
No, it was 4 days ago was that report that I was talking about.
Yeah.
So that was the earliest report that I saw, which was, he was planning on being active for Atlanta. So we'll just see what comes, in the next couple of days.
We shall see, but hopefully we will get a dub or at least a good result down in Atlanta. It's going to be a tough one. But before we go, Sam, I have our trivia question and answer if you're ready for it.
Yep.
So the question again was, when was the last time that Yu Yakubo had scored in 2 consecutive games with his 2 in the last 2? The last time he scored 2 consecutive was in October of 2017. And it was for Ghent. So you got the team right, you got the dates wrong or the years wrong, but was playing over in Belgium. And 3 days apart had scored 2 goals. He was playing a secondary striker at that time. So maybe we've unlocked a Yuya connection. I don't know, man. It'll be interesting to see. Is this what we go with, the next game? Yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts on Yuya lately? You gave me your jersey swap, but do you think that we keep going with him for it? Sorry to say this real quick at the very end, but I think we start him, right?
No, 100%. Yeah, he's the hottest guy next to Lucho. I mean, you could possibly see a third game in a row with that connection. You could almost say that could be one of the goals as well if you want to, throw a second goal in there for us.
I don't know if he's ever scored in 3 straight games. Stay tuned to next episode
Maybe
when
it's the other way around.
Scores his third, hopefully in a row. But thanks for listening tonight. Again, you can find us on X, on Instagram, YouTube if you're watching this here too, Spotify. Like, subscribe, leave some comments. We'll do some interactive stuff here. I think Sam had just put out our thoughts on the formation, and we'll see you guys next week.